Alrighty, let's go ahead and get started. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to drop them into the Q&A. We will review those questions as they come in. Otherwise, we do have a poll that's up as well if you guys want to answer that. We always love to figure out, or hear from you guys on where you're coming from, where you heard about this call specifically. Helps us kind of figure out, what channels you guys are coming from, whether it's support or from Facebook or word of mouth. Cool. Alrighty, guys. Like I said, feel free to drop in any questions that you might have in the Q&A. It can be about, oh, I'm new to the system. Where do I go? It can be, I've been on the system for a while. I'm trying to learn how to handle this particular procedure. You guys can just share any updates or wins that you guys have had as well with the system. Maybe you just figured out how to create a really unique smart block and you wanted to kind of share that with the rest of the um, organization. Kind of depends on what you guys need. I don't necessarily have a an itinerary for today's call. Obviously, it's our live webinar call. So we'll go over just some of the support stuff within open to close, and then we'll hop into some of the frequent asked questions that we got over this last week or so. So as always, if you guys have any questions, drop them into the Q&A. But if you have questions after the fact, where do you go? Or if you see something in your account, you need to take a deeper look at it with someone on our team. Here we've got our little chat icon. You can always click here and then send us a message to chat with us. You can also do so by logging into your app and chatting with us. Usually what I suggest is create a Loom video if you can, with whatever it is that you're seeing. And that will make it a lot easier for us to figure out, where are you clicking? What are you seeing? Where's the issue at? See if it's just a matter of navigation or if it's a matter of, maybe there's something going on with our system. You can always email us as well at help@open2close. That will work as well. Like I said, Loom videos, they speak thousands of words to us, being able to see exactly where you guys are going with that information. If you guys are looking for more webinars like today's webinar, you can always head over to our website, go over to the Learn tab, and then go to Webinars. And here you'll see the list of webinars that we have coming up. So right now, we're on our Wednesday workshop. Next week, we're going to be doing Contacts 101 and then Tasks and Triggers next Wednesday. I do want to point out that we did cancel our Tuesday class for next week. That was going to be Documents 101. If you guys are most likely you guys are also going to be out of office. It is that holiday on the 25th, so we have the 27th or 26th off as well. But if you guys are looking, you're like, wait, I do need to learn about documents though, Hannah. I really don't want to wait another 4 weeks in January to get down to documents because our next documents class is going to be Wednesday, January 24th. If you're like, I need to know about this sooner, you're always welcome to go to our YouTube channel. It's just open to close. You'll see our little logo. Know you're on the right place. Head over to our playlists, and then you can head into our group sessions. And these are pre-recorded. These are past ones that we've done. Looks like this is an ad. But you can always head down to our Documents 101. It's going to be this one. And you can review our call here. The information that we go over here is the same information that we would go over on that call. So this would be a great resource for you guys if you were like, oh, I really needed to come to that call in 2 weeks. I need to learn about documents. Check out our YouTube channel. I'll also grab the link to our YouTube channel. I think I can grab it. I'm subscribed right now. I think it's just up here. Perfect. And I'll drop that into, oh, looks like Kelly already beat me to it. Perfect, Kelly. I'll also send just the YouTube channel in general, just in case you guys want to see any of our past trainings or other webinars that we've had. There's a lot of really great resources on this page as well, just kind of learning more about like open to close, our previous Wednesday workshops, and so on and so forth. I would probably say if anyone came in today and they were like hoping to learn a little bit more about that FUB integration, definitely check out our Wednesday workshop from last week. We did a really, really deep dive on connecting that follow-up boss account right in the beginning, what the widget looks like, what webhooks look like, client portal. So we went over a lot of that information right at the beginning of that call. It's a super great call to review if you guys want to learn more about that the Facebook, the follow-up boss connection. Cool. Like I said, feel free to drop your guys' questions into the Q&A. We don't have anything just yet, so we'll take a peek at some of the FAQs that we've gotten. Okay. So it looks like some of the basic ones are just like front end use of the system. This isn't showing up for me. I'm not able to access this. There's an issue with something with my calendar. So we'll talk about a couple of those things. First things first, if you guys are wanting to share any invites to any dates that'll happen on a transaction, any of these dates here, and you want to share those with other party members, there's a couple ways to get that connected to a calendar. If we're wanting it to show up on specific calendars, we do want to make sure that you guys have access to be able to see that calendar, right? So the main thing that you'll probably end up doing is going to Google and checking the permission there to see if Google has access. Let me see if I can pull up an example of what my Google Calendar looks like and where to go with it. Okay. Okay. I have my blank calendar now. We're going to head over here. Once you guys have gotten into your calendar, you're going to head over to your My Calendar. I have a ton of other calendars on here. My Calendar, you'll click on the three dots and you'll go to share settings and sharing. You're going to scroll down and down underneath here where it has, access permission for events. If you want to be able to see your calendar within your account, number one, you're going to want to make sure you got that Google connected. But number two, you'll want to make sure that your calendar is set to public. The other thing that you might want to do is you might want to make sure that you have your calendar shared with the appropriate people. You can see here, I've got quite a number of my coworkers on here. All of them have the availability to see the events. Some of them have the ability to share or change it. You'll just want to click on this drop down and make sure that they have access. That way they can do what they need to do with it. That's the main thing with calendars. Once I know that they do have access to my calendar, or I have access to their calendar, I can always head to the property. We're going to go underneath settings and defaults. We can scroll down until we get to that calendar, property date sync right here. And when I click on that drop down, what I want you guys to take notice is all those people that were on that list, all of them are here as well. So as long as you have those permissions shared and you have them available, you should be able to sync with those different calendars. As long as they're, again, underneath that Google account, underneath your Google Calendar, you have the ability to share that calendar or that calendar's been shared with you. Now I can click on any one of these people and I can share the sync the dates from this particular property to those calendars. Another kind of caveat with our calendars, something that I like to point out is like when you get started with a new transaction, let's go ahead and go to our submitted intake forms. Say Countryside Drive, it's our brand new intake form that just came in. Once I bring on some contacts, let's go ahead and bring on Hannah. Let's go ahead and bring on Jill. Let's go ahead and bring on Kelly. All right, now that we've gotten everyone on here, I'm going to go ahead and expand the contact details. Underneath those particular contacts, we have this ability to say include on all calendar date invites. What I usually suggest is that when you guys first get started with your intake forms, you've gotten this property, you haven't approved it yet, make sure you come in here and review who you need to send those calendar invites and have them included automatically. What this is going to do is it's going to save you a lot of effort in the long run when it comes to communication, right? Having it set up here, when I click on it, what I want you to notice is that I've got this little notice right here. It says you'll need to resync the dates. That way you can make sure that you're pushing over all dates over to that particular party member or contact that's on this particular property. If we select them from the beginning and we don't have any dates populated yet, we're kind of saving ourselves the effort of having to do it later, right? So I say get your contacts in there, make sure you're sharing that calendar invite as soon as you possibly can on that particular property. If you can, before you approve it, that way when you do approve it, and if you have that date template apply, that it does invite that particular person and it'll invite them to all future invites if we need to add them on there. Cool. One of the other looks like issues that people have been running into is they've been running into issues with their task pipeline. The main thing that we see is that there's probably one or two filters that are set on it that you're not really thinking about, right? So for example, I've seen it sometimes where we just had a color underneath options and we could not find a task for the life of us. That task was just completely invisible. And the reason is because even though we had removed the user, we even searched for that particular address. We searched for, our particular team. Because we had that color associated, it's only going to show us tasks with that particular color. So definitely always check out your guys's filtering for it. I definitely suggest having a specific set of snapshots that you can go to. And I would name one of them no filters, right? That way you know for sure, okay, the one that I'm clicking on, no filters. Has no filters, no address filter, no phrase filter, no user, no team, no client type, no property status, and no options down here selected. Because if you do have them selected, it is going to try to show you those particular tasks. That's what I would start with. Now, if you still don't see your tasks, you've unselected everything, right? It's all blank and you're still not seeing any tasks in here. The next thing would be is to make sure that you're actually on the team that you need to get tasks from. So for example, what I want you guys to take notice here is this one says team, community content, team, community content. That's all the ones that I'm currently seeing right now. If I change this team and it looks like I can't change it on here, so let me just really quickly, well, that's the one thing, right? Let's say we were trying to look for the other, I need to help out implementation with their team, with their information. If you're not seeing a specific team underneath here, you're most likely not on that team, right? So you might need to add yourself. So head over to the gear icon, get into your organization users. If you're the admin, you're going to be able to make this change for yourself. If you're someone who is a team member on the team, you don't have permission to go into this area, definitely reach out to whoever set up your account and have them add you to it. But really what I want to do here is I want to go down to implementation and I want to make sure that I'm on this team. I'm not though right now, right? Community's not added on here. When I add community to this team, we'll go ahead and say add. Here they are, they're added on there now. And I head back to my task pipeline. Now I can sort it by implementation and I can see, are there any tasks that are assigned to implementation? I could also say, once again, that I want to look very specifically and see, are there any tasks that are assigned to implementation that are assigned to community? And if there were any tasks on that particular property, maybe we're looking for a particular role. Oh, me as community, I help out with sending out follow-up emails or something like that. As long as you have that role assigned, those tasks will show up here. But a couple things to consider. Either if you cleared out all of the filters and you're still not seeing your tasks, you might want to double check that you're on the appropriate team. You also might want to double check, like I said, that you have the appropriate role assigned to you on that team. So I added myself, but I'm not getting anything, right? When I click on roles, I don't have anything assigned to me. I don't have any roles assigned to me. So nothing's really going to show up as like, oh, hey, on this particular property that's assigned to your coworker, you don't have a task because you don't have anything assigned to you just yet. But as I start to add things on here, we'll go ahead and say this one, we'll say billing, we'll say intake specialist, email specialist, listing coordinator, listing manager. Just going to add a couple roles to myself. And if I go to one of those properties that are assigned to implementation team, let's go ahead and go to the implementation team. Let's go ahead and click on this property here. I'm going to just expand the tasks. I'm going to add a couple roles to these tasks. So confirm HOA docs. Perfect. Let's go ahead and filter by HOA. And let's say these two tasks here, these are going to be assigned to our assistant transaction coordinator. And this one's assigned to our assistant transaction coordinator as well. Okay. So once I've added those on there, what I want you to take notice is it says community team right away, because instantly it says, hey, this role is assigned to that community team member, which means it needs to be completed by them. When I head back to my task pipeline and I have implementation selected and I say, I just want to see the tasks that are assigned to community, here we have that task. So this is just kind of showing you guys where we might need to play around and see if things are due. That other task was set as an unscheduled tasks, which is why it's over here in the unscheduled view. But once again, we can see based off of our filtering, if we wanted to update that, who is it assigned to? Here we can see that this is on the implementation team. It's assigned to the community team member. Let me know if there are any questions. I'm not sure if any of you guys had any questions about that particular area or what that looks like, but really it's just a matter of trying to check it out. Okay, let's troubleshoot. If we don't see it, are they on the correct team? Or if we don't see it, first question is this. If we're missing our tasks in our task pipeline, we don't see what we need to see, do we have any filters? No filters. Okay. Are we still missing the tasks? Yes. Okay. We need to check to make sure that our team members on the appropriate team, they're on the team now. Do we still not see tasks? Yes. Okay. Next, we want to make sure that we have the appropriate roles associated with them. And even after you set up those roles, if you're still not seeing tasks for that team member, it could be that those task templates don't have those roles on there. One thing to keep in mind is as you guys are going through and setting up your system, this is kind of why we say it's important to think about these things in advance. When I make an update to my task template, so my main buyer's under contract, if I come through here and I add on another role or I change these roles from transaction coordinator to something different, those are going to be for all future transactions that get this particular task templates. Any existing task templates with this role, transaction coordinator, it's going to hold on to transaction coordinator. So kind of keep that in mind. Like if I said, transaction coordinator or the assistant can take care of this particular task right here, when I add on that other role, number one, it'll be assigned to two people, right? Whoever has both of those roles. But number two, this is going to be for all future transactions. It's not going to go back and update any of our past transactions. Just something to keep in mind when you guys are kind of setting up. That's why usually why we say, add on the role that you believe that would be associated with those tasks. Cool. It's also why we get a little granular with it too, right? Most of these tasks say transaction coordinator, but if you really wanted to be granular with your process, maybe anything with an email should be the email specialist. And anything related to that beginning intake form is the intake specialist, or anything related to, updating those documents. If it says, send over the contract agreement or send over escrow or ensure that we've received the EDM, maybe that is for our compliance specialist or our document specialist, right? So it's about thinking about those granular roles that might be assigned to those particular party members to make sure that they actually, receive the tasks that they need to receive and they see the tasks they need to see. Cool. Looks like we have another one. Oh, okay. Yep. We has a form condition to bring in a field, but it doesn't bring it inside of the transaction. So this is a question that I actually see a lot of. Let's talk about our intake forms. Let's go ahead and hop in there. So we're going to go down to our hammer icon, get into templates, and we're going to go into intake form templates here. I'm going to go ahead and go into our new list. Actually, let's go into our buyers residential right here. When we're in our buyers residential, let's talk a little bit about fields in their relation to form conditions. Okay. So here you can see a list of our fields. Up here at the top, you've got our details, our transaction details, our listing details, commission details, intake questions, and then archive field section. If I make an update to my intake questions, let's say I added on a question into here and I need to get it onto my fields. Depending on what that question is, I might want to make sure that it's either selected, right? This one's not selected, but we made sure that the will there be an inspection is selected on the right-hand side, or I'm sorry, on the left-hand side where it says agent field. This means that we want that field to show up on the intake form. If we have it marked as red, that means we want to make it required. So that intake form, we need an answer on that intake form. On the opposite side, we have a little green button selected. What this means is we want to bring this particular field into that property, right? So think of it as left-hand side is asking the question on that intake form. Right-hand side is bringing that answer onto the property. There are going to be some cases where you're going to have fields that only need to come onto the property. For example, this seller disclosure delivery status. I need it to come onto my property. I don't need to ask it on my intake form because they're not going to know what the status is. It's something that I will be updating. So I can have it marked as green. And what that means is it's going to bring that field onto the property, but it's not going to force anyone to fill it out, right? So if we have it marked as red, I'm going to go ahead and make this red. What this is going to mean on the internal side is that we're not only going to bring that field onto the property, but before you can approve the intake form, you need to insert an answer into this. Okay. So think of it as green. I need to bring this onto my property. It needs to come on every single time. Red, I need to bring it onto my property and I need to ask that question of my TC or whoever is reviewing that intake form after it's been submitted, right? And it needs to get an answer needs to be put in there before it's approved. It's just a couple things with our fields. Now, if we have this and then we need more information, right, to come onto that particular property, we need to have it that, after I ask, will there be an inspections? When I say yes, that's when I want to find out what kind of inspections there are. That's when we start looking at our form conditions. So I'm going to go ahead and click on form conditions at the top. I have that question selected. So I'm asking it on that intake form. I'm going to go to form conditions. Once I know, okay, well, when I say yes to this, I know I need extra or additional information. Here, we're going to just locate that. Will there be an inspection? And I'll drag it to the very, very top. So that form condition's already built out, but if you are looking at your form conditions, they're blank. You need to add one on. You're just going to want to select add condition. Here we're going to say property field, and we're going to look for that particular field. So will there be an inspection? We'll select that field. We'll make sure that we choose the operation equal to, and then we'll make sure that it says yes. Okay. So that's us building out that form condition. If the property field, will there be an inspection, is equal to yes, what happens next? What do we want to happen next? So after I say add, it's going to add that to the top of our list. It's right here already. We're going to want to click on edit actions, and our actions are going to be what it brings on next. Okay. So that can either be fields that we need to bring on and ask. It can be contact roles. It can be asking for a document. It can also be adding on an internal instruction. Internal instructions are something that shows up after that intake form has been approved. Or I'm sorry, after the intake form has been submitted by the agent. That's going to show up for anyone who's filling out or reviewing that submitted intake form with an open and close. Looks like we have a question. I'm just going to double check it. Okay. Great question. This is actually related to this too. So if I don't ask it on the intake form and I only want it on the property side, I just have to make sure that the green and red is selected. So what you're going to want to do is if you don't want to ask it on the intake form, you'll want to make sure that the green is selected to bring it into that property. If you need to have that TC fill it out before they approve the intake form, you'll want to make sure that the red is selected as well. So green is just bring it onto the property. I need this on the property every single time, doesn't matter. I don't need it to be filled out. I just need it on the property. When I have it marked as red, that means I need my internal user, my TC, most likely, to also answer that question. What that looks like, though, is I'll go ahead and head over to, I think I have a property that has one. Fingers crossed. So this is what it looks like. So these fields right here, I have them marked as green and red. That means I need my TC to fill out this information to populate in my fields before they approve that intake form. And so this is what it'll look like when we have it green and red. If it's just green, then the fields are just going to show up here. It's not going to require us to fill them out. They will just be here. Let me know if that makes sense, Kelly. Cool. Cool. Now, getting back over into the form conditions. Form conditions are going to be if you need to ask additional questions on that intake form. Now, once we've asked those questions, here we're asking what's the type of inspections and what's the inspection period days. We have this part set up. We're asking it on the intake form. We now need to make sure that we have a trigger associated with these fields. So I know that the type of inspections and inspection period date, if I go over to my fields and I go to my transaction details and I quickly look up my inspection details, I know that types of inspections and inspection days is included in my inspection details field section. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab the name of this really quickly. I'm going to scroll up to the top. And now that I've built out, once again, that triggers, that form conditions built out, it's bringing on those additional fields. When I have those fields answered, now I need to make sure that those actually get onto the property. What I'm going to want to do next is I'm going to want to head to my form triggers, and I'm going to want to make sure that I have a form trigger set up with this as well. So my form trigger here, if you can see, is that if the inspection details, once again, will there be an inspection is equal to yes, then I need to bring on, let me see if I have one. Okay, here we go. That's the trigger I was looking for. What I'm looking for here is I'm looking for a field trigger. So here we can see it says fields. It's got our little think of it as sticky notes. Sometimes I'll say slices of cheese, depends on how hungry I am. But here we can see that this is a field trigger. So a field section trigger that brings on that inspection details field section. We just want to make sure that it has the same condition as what we used in our form conditions. So in our form conditions, we used if will there be an inspection is equal to yes, then bring on this particular field section. So it's a matter of making sure we've got that. We're asking for those fields on our form conditions to bring it onto that intake form. And then internally, we want to make sure that we have a form trigger to bring on those fields after it's been submitted. I know this one's a little bit complicated. I can set it up from beginning to end if we want to see that. So just let me know. But mainly it's just making sure if you've got a form condition for it and you're bringing on additional fields, make sure you have that corresponding form trigger to take those fields and put them onto the property. Okay. Cool. Looks like we got another question. Can intake forms be linked to FUB? Yeah, there's a couple different ways that we can get intake forms to show up on FUB. I know that right now my team is kind of working through the best way to get it into Follow Up Boss, to have it show up. So I'm not sure if anyone on my team has an update for me just yet. But there are ways that we can get that intake form that our agent would fill out to show up on FUB. It just depends on, whether or not you're on our beta plan for certain forms that are going to be made available soon, or if you're just looking to get the link on there. That way they're prompted to log into open and close to get to that intake form. Kelly, I know that you were looking over stuff. Kelly on my team, Kelly, looking over stuff with this earlier. Is there anything you want to share in regards to this? Is there any update that you got? I know the last time we looked at it, we were just kind of troubleshooting, trying to figure out how we can get this to work appropriately.
So we came up with kind of an interim thing until we get it really seated as to how it's going to happen. But in your actual follow-up boss, you can create a custom field that shows up on the lead contact left-hand side towards the bottom, right there where Hannah's showing. You can create a custom field there and add the open to close link. So it takes you right to the website, and then they can log in and do the actual intake form from there. As of right now, that's what we're going with as the way to do it, the best case way to do it for now.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. So I have a link here. I don't think it's working though, which is totally fine. But yes, this would be where we would probably want to put in that information. Now, the other thing with this I know is that we're still trying to figure out like what is the best way to get this field in here. I'm not sure if it's something that we need to fill out every single time a new contact has come in, or if it's something that we can have that standard already filled out. I know that's something that we're looking into as well. Do we know? I mean, Kelly, right now it would be that you have to put in that link manually, correct? When you create that contact? Or
when you create the custom field, right there where it says website and it has the website, when you create the custom field, if you do it as it's something having to do with an option, choice option or something. Oh no, it's drop down. If you create a custom field that is a drop down and then you add that in there, it will leave that there. So it'll come on to every single lead contact.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. I really wish I knew how to, let me see if we can search for it. I don't know how, I've not played with Follow Up Boss enough yet to learn how to make any custom fields. So I'm wondering if they have like a quick way to learn it.
There's a article on it, but it doesn't show you about the drop down, how to make it so it stays there.
Okay. Do we know the best way to get to their support site? Would it be product changes? No, I don't think it would be product changes. Was wondering the best way to get to their support census. And this is how you guys can see that I don't play around with Follow Up Boss too much. Trying to get into their support. I want to say that adding in the custom fields is something that the admin is only allowed to do. I could be wrong on that. But it sounds like there is a way to do it. We just need to make sure that we have a custom field. Sounds like we need to make sure that it's a very specific kind of custom field, that drop down option that has that link already put in there. Now, the link itself This is the interesting part. The link itself, which link are we grabbing, right? What I would probably suggest is I would say we'll log in as the agent. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to log in as Justin. So we're impersonating that agent. I would impersonate that agent, head over to the intake forms that they have access to. So here we can see that Justin's got access to all of them. And I would go to buyer's residential, click on start form, and this is the link that I would grab. So if I wanted to share the link, I would grab this link here versus, we're logged in as ourselves. We go over to intake form and we grab a link from there. I always say that it's probably best practice to grab the link directly from that particular agent's profile, just to save you guys some effort. It'll also let you know which links are available, right? Because sometimes there's intake forms that we don't need to share with all of our agents. There's some intake forms that are only going to be available to specific agents. This one specific agent that we have right now, they only handle listings. They don't need access to this buyer's residential contract, right? So it might make more sense to log in as them really quickly, see what they have access to, and add those to that option versus, giving them access to all of them kind of thing. I'm going to go
And then
ahead
I
and cancel out of
dropped the Follow Up Boss article link to create custom fields in the group chat.
that. Wonderful. Awesome. Let me see if I can grab it, pull it open. Okay, awesome. So the one that we would want to make sure that we selected is the drop down. In your case, Felicia, that's what I would want to make sure is follow the steps within here. It looks like it's pretty straightforward, and we'll want to make sure that we select drop down as the option. And I get that. It makes sense, right? If we have it as a drop down, then that means that that option's already there. So all they have to do is select it and then they can open up that link. Cool. Sweet. Thank you for grabbing that, Kelly. Awesome. Next one. Just curious, is there a link that I could put on my website as a button for agents to log in as well? Or submit a file, making them log in first? I mean, technically you can still grab that same one, right? That same link that I was talking about. You could totally grab, the open to close login link. I think I'm gonna have to open it up as a incognito, but you can totally grab the open to close login link and have that on your website as like a plugin. Or like I said, you can also have it that, uh, you log in as that agent, and then you give them access there. What I would probably do though on your website is I would probably just have like the open to close login link. I think that's here. Let me go ahead and I'll like log out so you guys can see it. It's just going to be this link up here at the top. I can go ahead and grab it for you guys and drop it in the chat as well. I would probably grab that link, make sure that you have that embedded on your site. That way, when they need to log in, they just click and log in and then they're in their account within open to close. Cool. Great questions today, guys. Alrighty, let me take a look at the list and see if there's anything else. I noticed recently that we had this question about connecting to Gmail. And the main question is like I can't get it to work. Like there's issues that I'm running into with it. When you guys are first starting out with open to close and you're first making that connection to Google, you are going to want to make sure that you are the admin of the account, verifying that open to close is a trusted, basically you need to whitelist it, right? You need to say it's a trusted application. So what I want you guys to take notice is that here I have it saying connect to Google. When I click log into my Google Workspace, this is asking me to log into the administrative account. I'm not the admin of my Google Workspace account. My boss is, right? So I don't have the ability to do this. So if you guys are running into this screen, you go to click on you go to click on yourself and it just sits on this screen and it does not let you go any further. You're going to want to reach out to your admin and have your admin make sure to complete these steps, these first initial steps here, logging into their Google Workspace, configuring the apps here, making sure that they have access to it, adding in open to close as a verified trusted application that's on your account. And then you can have that TC go through and say, I've whitelisted, connect my Google. Because when I click on I've whitelisted and connect my Google, here I think it's just going to automatically connect me. Okay, cool. Let me go ahead and go back to that disconnect. I'm going to do it like it's brand new. Give me 1 second. Once you've had your admin go through and make sure to confirm that open to close is safe for them to connect to, the next thing you're going to want to do as the user, right? Once your admin has completed these first steps here, you could literally 1 through 7 needs to be completed by admins, people who own that Google Workspace account. Once they've confirmed that that's done, you're going to want to come down to I've whitelisted my email and say connect. Now it's going to ask you to log into your open to close or log into your Gmail account, right? Into your workspace account. If you have more than one, make sure you're selecting the one that needs to be connected to open to close that you need to send emails from. Okay. That's the most crucial part. You want to make sure you're selecting the correct one. If you have more than one, I've seen people have like 3 or 4 and they accidentally connect the wrong one and it doesn't work. So once we've ensured that we're connecting the right one, we'll click on it. It's going to ask, hey, do you want to give access to this specifically to your specific account? You'll say allow. And then now your Google's going to be connected and now you'll be able to send out emails. Okay. So we'll just want to make sure that admin completes that 1 through 7 steps. Make sure that open to close is a trusted application. And then you'll want to connect yourself and you'll want to give access to your specific Google Workspace account. Cool. Sweet. Very cool. I know that we've had a couple things, a couple updates that have happened to open to close. If you guys are ever looking for those updates, you're wondering, okay, what has happened? What are some new things that have happened? We always suggest going over to our little person icon, clicking on that, and then going down to where it says change log, and then clicking on the change log. We try to keep that updated as much as possible. So you can see here that we just pushed out a couple updates yesterday, but this will allow you guys to go through and see, okay, what changes have been made, what has been updated within open to close. This is a great place to check if you're like, okay, I submitted a ticket. There was an error. I haven't heard anything back yet. Let me just double check the change log and see if any updates have been pushed out. Sometimes we'll try to get the change log updated sooner and try to get that information pushed out sooner than reaching out to you directly, especially if you guys submitted a ticket. So if any of you guys were experiencing that error with emails and email attachments where it was stating that there was no file, but the file was there, and you guys are like, I haven't heard back on this yet. We have made a fix for that as of yesterday. It's always good to double check the changelog because this is a much faster way for us to get the information out to you guys versus looking through and sending out an email first, right? We're going to want to try to get information out to the masses first, and then we'll reach out to you privately if you were the one that submitted the ticket. So definitely double check this area. That's usually what I say first. If you're like, I haven't heard about it in a while, let me double check. Or, hey, this is working now. Looks like they fixed it. Let's check out the changelog and see what else, has been updated as well. You can see here that agent portals and CCing information, they were having some issues with CCing information or having information pushed through. Specifically for that Stripe payment, looks like that has been resolved as well. Looks like there's also Okay, so yeah, I know that this was an error that was being experienced by some of our users where we were trying to import from FUB when the agent was filling out that intake form and it just kept loading or it was just kind of empty. It says that it's been resolved. If anyone else is still experiencing that issue, definitely feel free to reach out to us. It was resolved as of I believe yesterday or even as early as this morning, but I mean 2, 3 a.m. this morning. I believe it got fixed. Again, like I said, it's just a great place to come in here and take a peek at what updates have been made. If you guys were, submitted a ticket and there was an issue, this is a great place to double check oh, hey, has it been updated just yet? Cool. Looks like we don't have any questions just yet. We have about 20 minutes left. Is there any part of the system that you guys wanted to review? Is there anything on this call that you guys were looking forward to covering? Okay, awesome. Cool. Well, going over a couple more things within open to close. The main things that I kind of want you guys to take a look at is I'd love it if some of you guys, it's the end of the year. you guys are all going through, you're reviewing your accounts, you're kind of trying to see like, where are you at with this? Where are you at with your system? A couple things that I usually use as a way to make sure that my system is like up to date and I feel really confident in it, or like maybe I need to make sure that I'm actually utilizing all of the parts of the system. I would first go through and take a look at the widgets that you currently have, and just see which ones are you utilizing, which ones are you not utilizing. If you're not really finding yourself having documents emailed in, or having documents being pulled in through integrations, right? I would definitely think about maybe we don't need to have that unapproved documents on our dashboard. Basically, think about it as like end of year cleanup. I would also think about, are there any reports that I need to pull? The great thing about open to close is that you can export these properties from open to close if you need to. You can also head over and use our reporting tool as well to pull some baby reports. Because it's the end of the year, you might be pulling reports like year to date for the buyers or for the sellers or for the purchase amount, or what have we closed on. So it's always a good idea to kind of just poke around with this, especially if you haven't used this feature just yet. We can head down to our reporting tool. I believe I created one recently. Maybe I just named it test. I have quite a number in here. Here we go. Let's go ahead and click on buyer's report. So since it's buyers and sellers, I'll just go ahead and remove the sellers really quickly. But I have this widget set up right now to pull in to show me how many buyers transactions did I have this year that had a closing date involved with it that fell within this date range. So if we wanted to pull that report again, I'll just go ahead and clear it out and let's build it again. We're going to click on add new widget. We're going to locate the field that we're going to kind of pull from. So what I usually like to do if I'm trying to pull a report specifically about buyers is I will go down until I see contract client type buyers, and I'll click on buyer there. I can go based off of the filing status, but right now we're kind of limited on what kind of filters we can put onto this particular field. That's why I like to go with buyer, because I know I'm specifically looking at my buyer's transactions. But if I wanted to look for other, information here under contract, I could. It would show me under contract for buyer and seller. So just keep that in mind. So I've selected buyer. I can go ahead and say close and then select build report. Now this is just showing me everything in the year of 2023 that's been created. What we're going to want to do here is we can click on year reference where it says created, and we can change this from created to the closing date. So what I'm doing is I'm saying anything that happened within 2023 that has a closing date that has that date 2023, like it ends in that year. Let me see all of the transactions there. From here, I could select list. And what that's going to do is it's going to show me the properties that have that year ending in 2023. So I only have a couple, mainly because this is my test account. So we're kind of going through and it's just got a couple test values in it. But that's kind of what you could do to pull in like a baby report. We've got a question. How many widgets can you add? Can you have active? So it kind of depends on what pricing plan you're on. So I always suggest head to our website, go to pricing, and then first you're going to type in reporting. I'm going to go ahead and take us down to reporting. Here's our reporting. If you're on that grow plan, you're going to be able to have one report and you're going to be able to have 4 widgets on that one report. If you're on our pro plan, you're going to have access to be able to create 3 reports, and that's going to be 4 widgets per those reports. And if you're on our scale plan, you're going to have unlimited reporting. So you're going to be able to create as many as you need. I am currently on the scale plan. That's why I have so many of these particular reports. Some of these reports that I do have probably only have like 4 widgets per. Some of them might have 6. But it just depends on what pricing plan you're on. So I definitely suggest checking that out. To figure out what pricing plan you're on though in your account, you're like, cool, this is great, but what pricing plan am I on? Head over to your little person icon up at the top. You're going to click down on plan and billing. Once you're under there, you're going to see what current plan you're on. If you don't have access to this part and you're like, well, I don't have access to see any of the information for billing, reach out to your admin. Hey, admin, just wanted to see what plan we're on so that I can know what features I can or cannot use. The reporting tool is something that is available across the board. Now, I believe, regardless of how many users you have, that when we say total reports 1, if you have 4 users, it's still going to be 1 report that's available. Okay, I believe. Double check though. If you're able to, per user, everyone can run one report per user. You could check it out, but I believe this is just one report per account. Cool. But those are some of the things that I would kind of look at. Take a look at what you're using, what you're utilizing, what you're not. If you guys are at the point where you're like, I've never really used intake forms, but I am curious about it, I definitely suggest coming to our classes to learn a little bit more about it. But you can also start to build out like a baby intake form. You don't have to build an intake form that with a ton of, form conditions or form triggers. Just when you first start out, you can build out an intake form just to get the information within open to close. So what I would suggest is click on add new, say baby intake form, whatever you guys want to call it. Right? Maybe it's just the fields, right? Maybe we just name this instead of baby, we would name it like fields intake form. Make sure you select your time zone. So we'll go ahead and say Pacific for me. Go ahead and go back to that intake form. I'm just going to name it fields. I'm going to go to edit. And then here, go through and kind of select the fields that you would fill out every single time, right? For that intake form. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. It's just you answering yes or no questions or you popping in details here that you might need to add. And the reason I suggest kind of like playing around with this is that you don't have to have form conditions or form triggers built out. Form conditions are if you want to bring on additional information. Sometimes you might not want to, but it's if you want to. And then the form triggers are just to populate it with those task templates, those fields if you need extra fields, document templates, a date template. You could technically still use that intake form to fill out all the fields, have that property populate, and then after the fact, you can always apply let me go to a property actually. You can always apply that property template too, right? So if you're still like in the middle of where you're like, I'm not quite ready to dive into intake forms, create all those form conditions, create all those form triggers, but I do want to get used to like clicking on add new intake form and like filling out the data through there. You can always create that property using that way without having to jump into your form conditions or your form triggers. So just keep that in mind. I know that a lot of users feel like they need to do all that work. You don't need to. You can just get that point set up. The reason the intent behind it would be kind of like shifting you from clicking on new property, filling out this information here, and then instead you click on intake form and you fill out the information here, kind of thing. So that'd be the intent behind switching over to intake forms. The other thing I would do if you're at the end of the year and you're kind of looking through and you're like, okay, I want to optimize my system a bit better, take a look at your task templates. How do you have them currently set up? Okay. Are we having it that, and I'm going to go ahead and click on sort templates, and I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. Do you guys have it that you have all of your processes broken out into their individual, task templates, where here you can see I've got my main ones. Those come on every single time for my buyer. Then I've got my inspection, finance, home protection, HOA, post appraisal, and then post closing tasks. If you do not have your task templates broken out like this at the end of the year, if things are slower for you, this would be what I would be looking into do. The reason that we suggest this is that this is going to help you be able to continue to build out your system so that you have it that each transaction is custom. If you say, yes, you're handling inspections, yes, you've got home protection, but it's a cash deal, so you don't need finance tasks, I don't want you to have to worry about deleting those finance tasks. If we have it in its own task template, you can just say, I don't need this task template to come on. Then those finance tasks don't come on. So kind of keep that in mind. If you're like, how do I, like maybe there's some areas that I need to optimize. Take a look at what you're using and what you're not using and see if you need to skim down there. Check out your task templates and see, okay, task templates, how are we set up? Do we have just a buyers under contract and it's all of the tasks that I could do? What's the best way to go about splitting them up? Usually what I would suggest is utilize that cloning tool, right? So we'll go to main buyer, click on options and clone it. I would create one that's going to be our master buyer under contract tasks. That way you make sure you don't mess up anything for any future transactions, especially if you're in the middle of still building things out. But I would clone because it saves you a lot of effort. You can clone, you can use our search filter tasks here. You can even, filter tasks based off of the color. There's a lot of ways that you can kind of figure out which tasks are going to be appropriate for that particular task template. Awesome. Looks like we got a great question. Do agents typically start the deal in FUB? If so, does it automatically start the contract in open and close? So starting the deal in FUB does not automatically start the contract within open and close. The way to get that contract into open and close is to have that agent fill out that intake form. That's going to be the first start. Now, for the agents, when do they start the deal? It depends. They could definitely have it that they start the deal on their end first and then come into follow up or come into open and close and populate the information. There's nothing wrong with that kind of step. That's usually what I would suggest users do if they're like, if the agent's really heavily involved and they want to be able to create that deal and they want to be able to have it. If you already have that deal created, the great part about using Follow Up Boss is that we can technically sync directly with that deal. So either we can push this over and create the deal, or we can attach it to a deal if the deal's already created. So if you have your agents, if their agents flow are okay, we've got our contact in here. We just went under contract. I'm going to create the deal really quickly. And then I'm going to hop into open to close. I'm going to fill out that intake form. I would just have your agents notify you that they've already created the deal. And then from here, when you go to connect to that particular agent's, open to close, Follow Boss account, you can just say attach deal, and then you're just associating it. The way that it works when you attach the deal is that from that point on, when you update information within open and close, it's going to push that data into that deal. And so it can automatically update the stage that you're in for that particular one. So here you can see that we've got one for buyers, for sellers, and for leads. It'll also update any of the fields as well. If we update the field in open and close, and we want to push that over into Follow Up Boss, we can also update the fields in there as well. Great question. Alrighty, guys. Well, we are about 9 minutes until the end of this particular call. If there's any other questions, definitely feel free to drop them into the Q&A, and we can review them. Otherwise, I'll just do my end of call spiel that I usually do. Like I mentioned at the beginning of our call. Yeah, perfect. No worries. Like I mentioned at the beginning of our call, if you guys are looking to chat with us, you need some help with us, you need some information, definitely feel free to chat with us using this icon here at the bottom of your guys' screen. Loom videos speak 1,000 words to us. It really shows us what are the steps that you're taking. So definitely look into it. Loom is a great application. You could also use like BombBomb or just a screen capture in general. I've seen some people it's a tool called Snipping Tool, and they recently got like the ability to record your screen and get your audio as well. So that might be a good tool as well. It's a free one that you could use. Other than that, you can always email us at help@open2close. If you're looking for more webinars like today's webinar, just head to our Open to Close webpage, click over on Learn, head into webinars, and then here you're going to see the webinars that we have coming up. There are a couple webinars. If you guys have already registered for them, you should have received an email saying that we canceled it. Those are going to be just for that 26th. And then for the 2nd in January, we also are going to be out of office on the 2nd of January as well. So next couple weeks, just because of the holidays, we're a little slim on our webinars, but definitely feel free to register here. What I like about registering for Wednesday workshop is that it's a reoccurring event. It happens every single Wednesday. When you register for this one, you should be able to add that calendar invite to your calendar, and then make sure that you have that reoccurring. You can keep joining through that same link. You don't have to register every single time if you don't want to. For our group onboarding sessions, those ones would be, I register to this class, I'm going to join this class. If you don't join that class, you would technically have to re-register if you wanted to get back into the following class, like in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I think it is. Next week on Tuesday, we're going to be going over Contacts 101. And then on Wednesday, we're going to be reviewing tasks and triggers. Depending on who's on the call and what information, you guys are looking to learn from, we'll either be talking and focusing on task triggers, or we'll be focusing on property triggers. Okay. So that's usually tasks. Usually we're talking about task triggers, but if you guys come on and you're like, I'm on the scale account, I want to learn more about property triggers, we'll talk about property triggers on that class too. Thank you guys for joining us today. I'll go ahead and leave us open for a little bit longer because we have like about 5 minutes left. If there's any other questions, feel free to drop them into the Q&A. Otherwise, I really appreciate you guys coming. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. If you're in a cold area, stay warm. If you're in a warm area, stay cool. Make sure to drink water. Stop right now, drink some water. I know that all of us need to do that more. Yeah, and I hope that I see you guys next week.